I guess I'm live. This is Gavagai. I just wanted to make a quick video kind of reflecting on some of the uh, recent discussions, particularly the one that I had, I guess it's 2 days ago now with Trey Jadlow. There were a couple of points that I wanted to bring out as I've kind of reviewed and thought more about the conversation with Trey. The first thing I wanted to say is just how kind of odd it was. The post that generated the conversation, or that kind of brought us together to talk, um, was related to the separation of church and state, and specifically the motto on our currency in the United States, "In God We Trust." And Trey's it seemed like Trey's take on that, just based on his comments on the post and things, it seemed like he had concerns, or was um, opposed to the idea of the separation of church and state, or at the very least thought that it wouldn't apply to the the application of that motto on our currency, or the change in the motto from the original "E pluribus unum" to "In God We Trust." Um, so that kind of the kind of the flow of the conversation that we had didn't really reflect that. In fact, he expressed uh, favorable opinions about the whole concept of separation of church and state. And now we kind of we had to cut the conversation short a bit, and I think we ended up going down just a rabbit hole on value and purposiveness, and then he was saying that my ideas about the origins of human value and things like that was in conflict with the law of identity and whatever. So anyhow, we kind of got sidetracked, I think, down this other vein, and didn't completely get to complete that whole conversation. I think, I'm hopeful that maybe with this reflection, and if Trey gets to see this, we can. We're planning to do another hangout. I believe later tonight. I've sent Trey a message this morning with a proposed time, and if he agrees to that time, then I'll make that hangout public. Um, but hopefully, in this kind of second installment of that conversation, we can we can steer the direction of the conversation back to the original discussion. Um, so we'll see how that turns out, and I guess tune in, and I'll make sure to publish and invite anyone who's interested. The second point about that conversation that I wanted to make was that I was wrong about Thomas Paine. It has been a long time since I kind of looked over or read any of his writings. I was wrong on two accounts. One, Thomas Paine is a deist, or was a deist, and so he was not an atheist. He did believe in a God. And two, it was the Age of Reason, really, that where this whole idea is fleshed out. And I had incorrectly cited common sense. Um, I think that the reason that I kind of had this bad recollection of his position and things was the fact that at the time that I was reading through some of this literature from the American Revolution and things, um, I was a believer myself, and I was interested in looking into kind of this idea that all of the founding fathers were very religious and Christians, that I had been inculcated with growing up in fundamentalist churches and things. Um, I would never claim that they were all atheists, or that they were all deists, or anything like that. And so that's one thing that I didn't get to really mention in the hangout with Trey. He asserted that atheists put this idea forward that they were all atheists, or non-religious, and I would never say that. I think there were several, even some key founders who were very religious, and if you read any of the history, you know that they would open their congressional sessions with prayer. There was conflict over what kind of prayer it should be and who should give it. So there were disagreements, and they made it a more generic prayer, to accommodate people who thought that it was, not so appropriate. And so at any rate, this idea that they were a homogenous group is patently false. And if atheists are saying that they were all non-religious, that's false. And if theists are saying that they were all, theistic and committed Christians, also false. Um, so my point is, I was wrong about Thomas Paine. I was wrong about the text. So, and anyhow, I went back and looked at it, and I'm going to share my screen real quick. Let's see. And I want to bring up this Age of Reason, because reading it also made me reflect on another conversation that I've had recently. Let's see if I can blow it up a little bit here. With a person named Baltasar, who I've recently made an acquaintance, and a hangout, one of Nadia's hangouts, as a matter of fact. And he's been there pretty frequently of late, in conversations and things. And I appreciate Baltasar. He is a believer. From what I gather, he's a Christian, and but he has asked some good questions, and admitted that he's had some doubts based on some things. So one of the things that Baltasar brought up was the idea, kind of a thought experiment, essentially, that he was saying, would it be more persuasive to those of us who are non-believers, if all of the if there were no other religions, if there was only one religion in the world, and you might have people who disbelieved the religion, but there wasn't this kind of diverse, set of religions from all these different cultures and things like that. So there was, at least within the group of believers, what would that be persuasive to us if it was just one religion? And the this idea I thought was interesting, and I gave a response. There were a number of other people. I think even, I'm sorry, Ozymandias was in there, and he gave some thoughts on it. Unfortunately, I think it was at a point when Nadia's hangout was off air. That's unfortunate, because I think it was a good conversation. It was kind of a stimulating thought experiment. My personal opinion on the matter was that, if there was only one religion, it would be persuasive depending on the nature of that religion. And I said that um, if and also depending on the way in which we came by the revelation. If the revelation was only given to one person, and that person had to communicate that to everyone else, that becomes somewhat less persuasive. If everyone had the same kind of revelation, and it was something almost on par with, and I compared it to, kind of, uh, the onset of puberty and kind of a sexual awakening that we almost all experience on a biological level, that all of a sudden you realize, or become aware of the opposite sex. And if we had an experience that was comparable to that, in that we had some perceived communication from another entity, and that communication, was consistent from one person to another, that would be persuasive to me. Um, if we were all kind of getting the same message, that would be very persuasive to me. Um, Now, Seamus was in that hangout, and he was saying, well, people lie, and so anytime you have a situation where people can lie, um, you could say, well, uh, there's reason to doubt, and people might be making claims that the this presence or this deity was actually saying something other than what it was, and or denying that it ever happened. And I could say that, yeah, that's true, but in the end, if we all had this genuine experience, um, I think it would become very hard to deny. Just like, I don't think that anyone credible could deny that they had a some kind of experience in puberty where they had some sexual ideas, unless they have some, there are circumstances where a person may have uh, some kind of other chemical something going on in their brains, or just hormones where that doesn't happen. But there are biological reasons for that, and we can say, okay, well, this is legitimate. That person actually doesn't have that. So you know, I guess it stimulates thought anyhow. The reason that I bring it up right now is because as I was reading Common Sense, I think that Thomas Paine, from kind of one of the American revolutionary figures, I suppose, um, he wrote this pamphlet called The Age of Reason, um, and in it he basically denounces organized religion and things, but I think he speaks to this point even, and that's why it kind of brought the thought experiment back to my mind. Um, so he says, and this is in the first part of the pamphlet, or I don't know if it was a pamphlet or a kind of a full length book. Um, but he says every national church or religion has established itself by pretending some special mission from God, communicated to certain individuals. The Jews have their Moses, the Christians have Jesus Christ, the apostles and saints, the Turks have Muhammad, uh, as if the way to God was not open to every man alike. Each of those churches show certain books which they call revelation or the Word of God. He goes on, he says, I disbelieve them all. As it is necessary to affix right ideas to words, I will, before I proceed further into the subject, offer some observations on the word revelation. Revelation, when applied to religion, means something communicated immediately from God to man. He says, no one will deny or dispute the power of the Almighty to make such a communication if he pleases, but admitting for the sake of a case that something has been revealed to a certain person and not revealed to any other person, it is a revelation to that person only. When he tells it to a second person, a second to a third, third to a fourth, and so on, it ceases to be revelation to all those persons. It is revelation to the first person only, and hearsay to every other, and consequently, they are obliged to believe it. Um, so he raises this idea that um, we have all of these different religions, and each one of them basically has a quote unquote revelation from a deity that is given to one person, and everybody else has to take that person's word for it. I think we should all be uh, skeptical and suspect that this is going on at all. So unless you have an actual revelation from another entity, um, you know, I think you have good reason to be dubious about these claims, and so that's all. And I thought it was interesting, uh, just that this thought was kind of captured in Thomas Paine's Age of Reason. And I have one other thing that I wanted um, to mention. I have participated and have been invited to participate in kind of a regular hangout show, Heretical Weekends. We've got another episode coming up. We had our first episode last weekend. We talked about Trey Jadlow's argument for the existence of God, and had some reflections on that. Several of us had personal conversations with Trey, and interactions with him, both in Hangouts and also kind of in um, comment threads and things like that. So the participants in Heretical Weekends are Mischievous Heathen, Fox in the Know, Atheological Potato, and myself, Gabagai. This next episode we'll be talking about morality, and kind of reflecting on kind of theistic systems of morality versus secular systems of morality. Um, and you can look for Heretical Weekends on Mischievous Heathen's YouTube channel. Shout out to Mischievous Heathen. And so I hope that you're able to tune in. You can see, we'll be posting and um, giving you more information on the specific time and things. But it'll be, I think we're going to be doing Saturday this weekend. So tune in, and hope you enjoy that show too. That's all I had for today. Thanks. And again, check it out later tonight. Hopefully, Trey and I will get to further our conversation. So thanks for watching. Take care.